Hello, Hayes. I feel like my friend group is gradually sucking the life out of me. At first, I was so infatuated with being in a group that I ignored red flags and pushed major differences under the rug. For a while, I was happy to do that. But over the last year, I've grown increasingly uneasy. I experienced some major life events, including the death of a family member, and felt a crushing lack of support from these friends. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. I had built my life around people who are, in many ways, emotional strangers. With the help of my therapist, I've recognized that most of these friendships are unhealthy and are constantly causing me pain and anxiety. I know I need to step back from the group, and I know I'll be happier when I do, but I just can't work up the courage. I've been telling myself I'm going to do this for months, but I'm terrified of being alone. I'm in my mid-20s, and this was my college group. Aren't those friendships supposed to last forever? I don't have a partner or other close friends, and I'm getting ready to switch jobs and move to a new city where I don't know a single person. I keep saying it's just not the right time. But how long can I keep betraying myself by staying in a dynamic that has already ravaged my life? I don't want to cause drama or leave with a bang. I just want to quietly distance myself, stop checking the group chat, and skip group trips. But how do I get comfortable with this choice? How do I accept that it's right, even though it means being lonely? I know what I need to do, but how do I actually do it? Yours, Scared to Be Alone. I think that the pain of being in a group of friends where you know you don't belong is really it's one of the most intense pains that I've ever experienced. And maybe the pain is not unique to being in a friend group where you don't belong, but it's just the pain of being in some sort of social relationship where you don't belong, being in a place where you don't belong, and like the rejection of that and how crushing it is, because that's all we all really want. All we all really want is to be seen by someone, be seen in the communities that we're in, be seen in the place we work, wherever we spend our time, wherever we're living this life. And I think that I have felt some personal resistance over the last, year or so in talking about some friendship topics. It's something that I've been kind of exploring with my therapist a little bit, actually. Like I received lots of letters about friendship breakups, friendship dynamics, and I was feeling kind of like there were moments where I was feeling like I didn't want to answer them. I was having my own judgments about the letters. I was feeling like I don't know. I was feeling like I didn't want to answer them, for lack of a better phrase, to repeat myself. And it's come to as I've thought about it more, I've realized I think part of it's because I don't want to revisit the pain of being in that position. Talking about the situation you're in, Scared to Be Alone, makes me reflect on when I've been in your shoes too. And I'd prefer to not go back there. And I share that because I think it really speaks to the intensity of that pain, of knowing that you need to make a choice, knowing that you need to leave, knowing you need to choose yourself instead of the comfort that comes from, even though you don't like these people you're in a friend group with, even though they don't make you feel good, it's at least they're there. It's just very, very painful and isolating. And I wasn't prepared. I wasn't preparing to tell you about the resistance I've been feeling about friendship related stuff, but it felt right now. I don't know. It felt like I needed to tell you that to validate the intensity of that pain. The pain is so intense that I, in fact, don't want to revisit it. Because for so many of us listening, I think, have stayed in some sort of relationship dynamic because we're scared of what will happen if we leave it. And that really says something about how we fear loneliness. But I think we have loneliness and isolation all wrong, because there really is nothing more isolating and more lonely than being around people who don't make you feel like yourself. And there are, what's the term I'm looking for? There's a spectrum of that. We all have to be around people who don't make us feel 100% authentic, 100% ourselves all the time. And that's part of life. Sometimes you can even be friends with these people. You can be friends, you can have relationships with people where you're not bringing your every single card you have, the full spectrum of your identity into the relationship. That's fine. But when you're in a group of friends where you're showing up, you show up to all the things, you're in the group chat, you go to the dinners, but you're never sure exactly where to sit. Like that's a specific feeling I can remember. Like you're going to a group dinner with a lot of people and you don't know which chair you should sit in and you're not sure if everybody's gonna like if people are going to be trying not to sit next to you and will they be mad if they have to sit next to you, so you just choose the end of the table. It's funny. I sometimes still like, I'm always cautious about intentionally choosing the seat at the end of the rectangle table now that I'm more confident in myself and I'm more confident in my relationship. Sometimes I'll intentionally choose the end just to make sure that if there's somebody else who like doesn't feel as confident, doesn't feel so lonely at the end of the table, I don't know, I'll try to choose that seat so that it doesn't become like the scarlet letter seat. I don't know. That's a little bit of a tangent, but there's just all these little moments and images that come to mind. And if there are any images coming to your mind as you're listening to this, listening to the letter and what our friend here, what their situation is, if you're thinking of anything, please let us know. But I'm so sorry that you're stuck in this. I'm so sorry that you're going through this. I'm so sorry for the death of your family member and how that was one of the circumstances that really like brought to light. It was the last straw with these friends. And I guess just a word about that. Thinking about my own life, I think that when most of my friend groups or friendship situations unraveled, like if I look at all of the times in my life where they unraveled, it was often sparked by an internal struggle, which for me was often sparked by some external grief or something like that. And time again, like it is shocking how ill-equipped we are as humans, if I make a generalization, because some of us are better at it than others, but just like how ill-equipped we are to support other people through their pain. And I'm so sorry that your friends did not show up for you when you experienced death in your family. I'm so sorry. People really don't know what to do. And I think that pain in general as a feeling, and of course there are so many shades of pain, we really don't want to feel it. And sometimes it's not like your pain is too much for them. It's not that your pain is too much for them because your pain is too much. Your pain is not too much. Your pain is just enough. But people like can't touch other people's pain because it feels too much for them. It speaks more about them and their inability to like cope with hard feelings than it does about you and what you bring to the group. But it really is, it's so staggering to me because I hear it all the time and I've experienced it in my own life and dear friends of mine who have gone through extreme trauma, and learning about how when they were going through that trauma in their life, they lost nearly all their friends because people just don't show up. And maybe it takes you experiencing some trauma or some tragedy to be able to, because showing up actually doesn't mean doing something extravagant often. Showing up doesn't necessarily mean like literally showing up at the door every day and calling every day. I don't think it means that. I think showing up for me at least means witnessing pain, witnessing someone's pain and through witnessing it, I think you show the person who's experiencing pain that it's not going to last forever. Speaking from in my experience, when I feel the most like scary depths of my emotion, the fear in my head is that it's too much and it's never going to go away. This is going to be a burden for everybody and it's going to last fucking forever. That's what the voice says when it's happening. And I think the greatest gift that you can provide a friend or someone you love is to just sit there with them. You don't need to fix it, but you need to, by sitting there and witnessing it and loving them through it, because sometimes it's not, I was going to say, and saying that it's going to be okay. In the case of death, saying it's going to be okay is not the most helpful thing to say. But that's what I think support means. Just witnessing it, witnessing the pain. We all just we talk about wanting to feel seen. I think we just want to fucking witness to what we're going through. And it doesn't take a lot, but I think so many people cannot be witnesses to each other's lives and everything that's going to come up in them. And I'm sorry they weren't there for you when you needed, and they were never going to be able to be there for you. It's like It happened now, and it was going to happen later, and you will find people who can be there for you. And it fucking sucks that you didn't have them before, because I know it would have helped. You know? I know it would have helped when you were going through a hard time to have friends who you felt like who saw you and who could witness your pain and your grief. But you didn't. And that fucking sucks, and we can't go back in time and fix that, but you will. This experience now is going to help you make more like deliberate choices about who you invite into your life. And I think it'll probably make you more intentional about the friends you seek out. I know you're moving to a new city, and that feels really scary. I think it's all happening now, like for a reason. Like this timing in your life is like cosmic. You're moving, you're starting fresh, and you're bringing with you all this knowledge. You really have the ability to have a fresh start. And it doesn't, moving to a new city doesn't necessarily make starting over easier, but in some ways it does. You're not going to have to literally see these old friends all of the time. Have you ever looked in your closet and felt like none of your clothes feel like you anymore? I've been there, and I've made plenty of expensive mistakes while trying to figure out my style again. I've been working on this the last few years, and now I try to only buy pieces that I'm confident I'll wear for a long time and that already work with staples in my closet. That's why I love Nuuly. Nuuly is a subscription clothing rental service where for $98 a month, you can choose any 6 styles to bring home. I can rent that midi skirt from Alex Mill that I've been loving and see if it actually works with the gray sweater in my closet, or I can try a new pair of jeans from Redone, 2 of my favorite brands that both happen to be on Nuuly. Nuuly has thousands of styles from hundreds of brands. Everything from party dresses to premium denim to one-of-a-kind vintage pieces. If I love something, I can buy it at a discount, or if I don't, I can send it back and get something new next month. Nuuly has inclusive sizing up to 5X, plus tall, petite, and maternity. Shipping and returns are fast and free, plus everything is cleaned in Nuuly's state-of-the-art laundry facility. I love that Nuuly really curbs that I need something new feeling and helps me experiment with my style in an affordable and inspiring way. It also has no hidden fees if you spill on a piece or lose a button, and it's way less wasteful. They ship in reusable totes with no plastic packaging, and they repair items when they're damaged instead of just throwing them out. So if you're in that nothing feels like me stage, or you just want to freshen up your closet, Nuuly makes getting dressed exciting again. Nuuly is a great value at $98 a month for any 6 styles, but right now you get $28 off your first month of Nuuly when you sign up with the code HAYES. Just go to NUULY.com, that's Nuuly with 2 U's, and enter the code HAYES to get $28 off your first month. Nuuly subscription clothing rental. Change your clothes. I was talking about you're going to be more intentional making new friends. It's hard. The balance between like being intentional and being guarded is a really interesting one. Like I would say that I am very intentional about who I invite into my life as a result of being a person who, has had challenges in friendship, has had challenges in my life, and really has built a wall up in some ways, a protective wall, about who I let get close to me. Is that intentional? Or is that, what was the word I used? I forget the word I used. Someone in the comments tell me what word I used. Is it intentional? Or is it guarded? That word works. I don't know if that was the word I used. And I don't really have a perfect answer to that. For me, I think I have found the proof in the pudding that I have found some good balance is that I have close friendships. I think that I would say I've gone too far to the guarded side. If like the only person who I felt saw me and knew me was my husband, for example, then maybe I'd gone too guarded in the friendship area. But I think that once you've been through what you've been through, you're never going to go back to the way you were before. You're always going to be a little intentional, a little guarded. And that's because you learn not from your mistakes, but you're going to learn from this experience. I don't think everybody is intentional when making friends because I don't think everybody has had this experience that you have. I don't think everybody reflects on their relationships as much as you do, as much as we do. I think everybody who listens to this podcast, I imagine that we are all people who reflect and who want to, who want to build the best life for ourselves as individuals. And I think that you are on your way to doing that. God, that line, the realization hit me like a ton of bricks. These people are emotional strangers. Oh, it hurts. It hurts, but it's so vivid. It's so vivid and it's so beautifully said. And it's like, I think that you can have people in your life who are emotional strangers as long as you have people who you are emotionally intimate with. Like it sort of goes back to Six Besties theory. Like I have people who I am friendly with who don't know, who I don't get emotionally intimate with, but I'm okay with that because I have other places where I can be emotionally intimate. I think it's extremely isolating. And this is when it becomes like untenable, is when you look around and everybody in your life feels like an emotional stranger. So I'm with you. It's time to step away. But that courage you're talking about, the courage you need to muster up is really hard. And I want to, the times when I was in a friend group was like middle school, high school, college. I stopped being in friend groups when I graduated because I was still friends with people in my old friend groups, but I just stopped identifying as being in a friend group. And I think I do want to flag that I think it is harder to do that when you are in school. It's harder to do that if you live in a small town. It's harder to do that if you are roommates with somebody in the group. It's not impossible, but like it's easier, I think. It's just harder. And I want to say that because if you are somebody who feels stuck in a friend group and you're in high school and you're like, well, how the fuck, Hayes, am I supposed to just stop being friends with these people when we eat lunch together every day? Like, this is my group. And if I stopped being in the group, you don't even understand how isolating that would be. I do get that. And I do get that it's harder. I unfortunately have done it, and I have done it in all of the stages of life. And from experience, it is harder when you live with these people or when you see them every day. It was easier after I graduated. I think it is easier after you graduate, but maybe that's also just like ease with age. As I got older, it became easier to manage some of the discomfort and awkwardness that comes up from stepping away from one past life and stepping into a new one. I think the way you're thinking about leaving the group is the right way. Like right now, it sounds like you're imagining this big decision you have to make. And even though you say like, I don't want to leave with a bang, I think in your brain, you kind of think you have to. Like, I think in your brain, you're associating stepping away with like something definitive. And I think stepping away can be gradual. It can be quiet. And that doesn't make it any less powerful or any less brave. I don't think stepping away from the group requires, in this context, I'm not sure if it even requires telling anybody. And something might come up in the process of separating yourself where you have to address it. But I think that stop checking the group chat, great, mute it, right? That's one small thing you can do to kind of kick off this process. Mute the group chat. Stop reaching out yourself. Stop reaching out. Mute people on social media. Like, start to control a little bit what you're consuming of these people. And I don't think that this is avoidant. I don't think that this is passive aggressive. I think it's baby steps. I think you're taking baby steps to being able to fully disengage. Skip group trips. Say you can't go. Like, these things are easier said than done, but doing them is doing the hard work of disengaging. And I don't want you to belittle these small things. These small things are big things. They will add up. And all of a sudden, simply by not checking the group chat, by not making plans, by not going on the group trips, and by investing your time into new friends, into new experiences, into work, into family, into whatever, into dating, into anything else, a hobby, I think that you'll start to realize, wow, I actually did this. Wow, I actually did it. And yes, sometimes I cry at night. And yes, sometimes I feel lonely. And yes, sometimes it sucks. Yes, sometimes I doubt my decision, but I did it. And look, I actually I feel more confident. And the thing about making a change like this is you're not going to feel better right away. I think that's a really hard truth about bettering our lives and getting rid of things that feel toxic or things that make us feel bad about ourselves. We assume that there's going to be a little bit of a hard part, but then it's going to get better right away. And I don't think it actually looks like that. I think real life looks way more up and down. I think it's going to feel hard and some things are going to feel better. But It might introduce new things that you feel insecure about. Because the thing about insecurity is that whatever we fixate on, and I'm saying we, but me and maybe you, whatever I fixate on stops me from fixating on other things. And there's a whole lot in this world to like feel insecure about or feel consumed about. And you might find that when you take away this surface level problem, and surface level, by the way, does not mean fake or unimportant. When I say surface level, I mean like top layer. Not feeling seen in your friend group is like the top layer problem. Once you remove the specific friend group, you might find a deeper sense of loneliness that is way more uncomfortable and way more painful to deal with and to sit with right away. But I encourage you to sit with it. I encourage you to sit with whatever pain or shame or disappointment or sadness comes up once you do the hard thing. Sit with it. And when we sit with it, and even just give yourself permission to say, I feel so disappointed that it didn't work out with these friends. I feel so disappointed that my college friend group didn't last forever, which, by the way, you said, aren't these friendships supposed to last forever? I don't fucking know. I don't think so. Some last forever, and some certainly don't. Some college friend groups last forever, and they all secretly hate each other, or are jealous of each other, and talk shit about each other, and sleep with each other's husbands. And there's all sorts of fucked up things that can happen. There's all sorts of, I don't know where I came up with that one, but like, I hear crazy stuff about you'd look at one friend group and you'd think, wow, that looks perfect. They all look like they love each other. And it's more complicated than that. Now, of course, there are some groups of friends who don't have that experience, and they really are healthy. Like, it's a healthy bond. That doesn't mean it's without conflict, but it's a healthy bond. I don't think all college friends last forever. And I think that anybody making you feel, but I totally get like the want there. I understand the want of, especially if you don't have high school friends that have lasted forever. It's like college was sort of your last chance to have a friend group from, childhood, in quotes. There's something very romantic about having your friend group since college. I will have friends from college, but I already don't know if I'd say my friend group from college, even though I have multiple friends from college that I'm still friends with. And some of them we were in the same group. I just don't even think about it like that. Maybe that's just a rewiring of the brain. But no, I don't think college friends are supposed to last forever. But I do understand the grief of, wanting them to, and then they didn't. But I think you have to sit with whatever those feelings are. I was just talking about this I was with a friend last week, and she was telling me a story, about something challenging that she was going through. And at the end, I after listening, I said to her, like, I know how that sounds really disappointing. That sounds really disappointing. And if you're anything like me, disappointment fucking sucks. And for a long time, I did not allow myself to say how disappointed I was about certain things in my life. Certain things I thought I could do and that I didn't, or people that disappointed me. Like, something about admitting that we're disappointed, it's almost like it makes the disappointment happen all over again. At least me, when I say it's taken me so long to say I'm disappointed about things, because then it like made them real, and I didn't want to believe that it was real. I was well aware of the pain I felt and the annoyance, maybe the anger, but disappointment admits to disappointment admits to hope. And maybe it's like, it's really sad when we have hope about something and then that hope gets crushed, because you can't have disappointment if there wasn't hope. I say all of this because it is going to get better and you are going to find your people, but it's going to be uncomfortable in the middle. And I don't want you to rush through that part. I've spent so much of my life rushing through the hard parts just to like get to the part of feeling better, because feeling bad is so scary, and it hasn't always served me. And a big focus in my life has been like, let me just like sit with the painful stuff a little longer. And then what the magical part about that, maybe it's not magical, I'm overusing that word, but the good part about that, the helpful part, even though it's fucking annoying, is that it's making by sitting with the pain and allowing myself to feel it when it happens, it like lasts a little longer and a little less long. It's like a little less long in duration and it's maybe a little less destabilizing. And that, my friends, is called progress. How do I get comfortable with this choice? You may never be comfortable doing it, but you have to be comfortable even though it's hard. Like, you have to accept that it's uncomfortable. Maybe that's what I mean. You have to accept that it's not going to feel easy. And then you have to do it anyway. You say, this doesn't feel totally right, but I know that it doesn't feel right because I'm scared and because I've grown comfortable in this discomfort. I've grown comfortable in one kind of discomfort, but now I'm going to choose another one that I know is actually better for me. And then you do it. You start with those small steps. You start with the small steps, and there's never going to be a perfect time. But the best time yet is right now. The best time yet is right now. So if you are listening to this, which I hope you are, mute the group chat. Mute the people on social media. They won't see, I promise. Mute them. Stop engaging. Start investing your time in other stuff, and just trust me. If you don't have the trust in yourself, if you don't have the belief, you can borrow my belief, and it's going to get better. It's going to get better. I love you and I'm proud of you. And hazelnuts listening to this, if you have any words of wisdom, words of comfort to share with our letter writer scared to be alone, please leave them in the comments. And, we've all fucking been there. We've all been there. Thank you for writing in. That's all I have for this letter. If you'd like to write me a letter to discuss on the podcast, you can send it to hellohayesbusiness@gmail.com. That's hellohayesbusiness@gmail.com. Leave your question in the subject line. That's helpful for me while scrolling through. Oh, there's a little fly on my camera. Leave it in the subject line. That's helpful while I scroll. And yeah, coming up in the rest of the episode, we are going to talk about the rapid fire questions that you all sent me about friend groups on Instagram. If you're not a part of that, follow me on Instagram at afhayes. On Mondays, before I tape the episodes on Tuesdays, I will tease the theme of the letter and ask people to send me their quick questions, and then I'll go through them in the second half of the episode. So if you want to participate in that, follow me on Instagram at afhayes. And let's move on to the second part of the show. You know this is a hot topic when I plug in the little Instagram question box, and in minutes I have like over 50, which is a lot. Minutes over 50, that's a lot for me. Okay, let me start at the beginning. Someone asked, what do you do when you see your friend group all hanging out without you? If I was in a friend group and I saw that everybody was hanging out without me, I think the first thing I would try to do is think about the context. Like, is there some context to this that could make it make sense? That's part of thinking about it. What's the least personal way to interpret this? Which is a question I like to ask myself. You've heard me say that on the podcast a million times. Like, is there context that would make this make sense? For example, are you in a friend group of 5 people, including yourself, and maybe the other 4 are all on swim team together, and you notice that they're like at a pool? I don't know. Or maybe it's after swim practice and they're all like at ice cream. Maybe it was just after swim practice. That's I don't know why my brain is immediately going to like high school. Like, is there some context that would make this make sense and make it not personal? But if there wasn't, this is part of why I think friend groups are so hard, because yes, you're allowed to hang out with, coffee. Yes, you're allowed to hang out without everybody in the group. But at the end of the day, if one person is excluded, that is not nice. That is not nice or kind behavior. I think there's a responsibility of being in a friend group to be inclusive and to be thoughtful. Again, that doesn't always mean that everybody's included, but it probably means that if there's only one person who's not there, it probably means they should be there. If there's not some greater context that really makes sense. If you are one person in a friend group and you feel like they're all hanging out without you and you're not included, I would probably stop hanging out with that friend group. Maybe I would try to, if there were people in the group that I had close one-on-one relationships with, maybe I would try to just invest in that. Or I would probably start trying to find a different friend group, mostly because if I don't like the way that makes me feel, if something doesn't feel right, I would honor that feeling within me and try to surround myself with people who do make me feel good. Now, that does require some self-awareness, because I don't think that Some of it is on you to reflect and think, well, am I just demanding that I'm invited everywhere, even where it doesn't make sense? And if you don't have any self-awareness, or you can't think about this with some emotional distance, then maybe you're part of the problem. But if repeatedly you're like, they all hang out without me and they don't invite me, then they might be doing that intentionally. And it might be time for you to stop wishing that you were there, you know? Easier said than done, but I think that that's the hard truth. Do girlfriend groups fight like sisters? My best friend puts up with drama in her group and I don't get it. Oh, how interesting. It's interesting because there's sort of an inherent assumption that like it's okay to fight as sisters. But let's remember that some sisters are toxic and don't get along and cause each other tons of stress and trauma. And, like just because you're sisters doesn't mean it's okay to fight and be cruel and not repair. I do think that close sisters or healthy sisters are able to fight and repair in a very special way. Like I think about my sister and I, and we rarely fight, but we do sometimes fight. I think because we're family members, we both have a unique way of triggering each other sometimes. And I think one thing that we're really good at is repairing. I would be really uncomfortable, though, if I fought with anybody else in my life in the way that I fought with my sister. And I do repair with lots of people in my life, but like the fight is never quite as, I don't know. There's a type of fight that happens in a family that I probably would not want with a friend. And that isn't saying anything bad about, the type of fights that I get in with my sister, but like there's a certain intimacy, I guess. And maybe it's like the things that are triggering to us are so deeply related to like who we are, what we've been through together and all that it would be, I don't think I could be friends with someone who triggered me in the same way. But do some girlfriend groups, do some friends fight and repair in the loving way that sisters do? Like maybe part of the question there is that with some sisters there is a sense of unconditional love. Like no matter how shitty it gets in the moment with us, no matter what we say, no matter how painful it might feel while we're fighting, like we will fix it because we are ride or die, And do some friends have that with each other? I think maybe. Though I think it's much rarer to exist in a large group context. I think that it might. I'm not sure that I've seen it. I'm not sure that I've seen in a large group true sister. I don't know, but just because I haven't seen it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. You said that she puts up with drama, though, in her group. The fact that it's even being labeled as drama, that to me makes it feel like not healthy, good sister energy. It's just, you're like using the phrase, we're like sisters, we fight like sisters as an excuse. That's just my 2 cents on it. But you guys let me know. Do you fight like sisters with any of your friend groups and it feels healthy? You tell me. Next question. Should I invite a friend to things just to make them feel included, even if I don't really like them? Oh, I think sometimes yes. I think it depends on the context of your group. Like, I think that there is a responsibility in being in a group to sometimes do the kind and inclusive thing, even if it means like it's not what you'd prefer. If you're having a birthday party for yourself, I'm going to use this example because maybe it's a little testy. Because it's about you and it's like it should be your special day. You're having a birthday party and there's like 10 of you in the group, but there's one person who you find kind of annoying. I would invite that one person still because they're a part of the group. And every time you go out, every pregame you go to, like they're always there. I would probably invite them because by participating in the large group dynamic and like by being a part of the group, I want to do the right thing by the group and I want to do the kind thing. And you shouldn't really let their one presence affect you too much. Now, if you didn't want to play by those rules, like if you don't want to do the kind thing, then I think I'd be re-examining whether I want to be in the group. Like, I'm not a person who wants to be around people I don't like. So I don't really, that's part of the reason, I guess, why I don't do large groups and behave in large group behavior. because I want to only be able to hang out with the two people that I actually want to spend time with. Like, I want to be able to do that and not feel bad about it. And that doesn't make me like immune to hurting someone's feelings. I'm sure the fact that I haven't participated in some groups maybe does hurt somebody's feelings, but it's like, if you're going to be in the friend group, I think that you need to consider everybody in the group. I just think that that's the right thing to do. Now, what are some... I don't think you need to invite them to everything. Like if you're in a group of 8 and you're hanging out with 2 friends, I don't think you need to invite the one person you don't like just for the sake of it. But I'd be considering the context. If you think you should invite them, I probably would. Someone wrote, I'm dealing with feeling like the odd man out. I joined an established group via marriage. You know, sometimes I think that when we think we're the odd man out, we put up like defensive mechanisms that actually make us be the odd man out. And maybe this is just something I did, but I remember like when I was dating Brian my senior year of college, so a lot of his friends got girlfriends later. Like I was one of the first girlfriends on the scene in the group, I guess. And later, as more girlfriends and more wives started to come in, I felt different, I guess. And I think I wasn't sure that I would fit in with them. They all seemed, and I was making tons of judgments here, but like they all seemed to get along and to be one type of way. And I felt like the odd man out because for a lot of my life, I think I had felt like the odd man out in friend groups. And as I'm saying this out loud now, I definitely was projecting like my past, the past way that I had felt in friend groups. I was like, oh, here's a group of women. I'm probably not going to like this. I'm probably not going to like this because I haven't liked being in large groups before. And I think for probably a couple of years, honestly, which is longer than I'm ashamed to admit that it was that long, I sort of projected an odd man out energy and I created distance, probably because I was trying to protect myself. And I finally got over it. I had been invited to a book club a couple of times and I had said no. And then finally, maybe Brian had convinced me to go. Finally, I said yes. And I sort of took down that odd man out wall. Maybe I stopped being so guarded. And I had so much fun. And I was able to feel like the joy of being welcomed and being new. And being welcomed doesn't necessarily mean being loved and people are obsessed with you. Like it doesn't need to be that intense of a welcoming. But I got to experience the joy of people being kind and friendly. And there's something really nice about people just being kind and friendly and interested. And you don't need to be best friends. But like let people welcome you in. And this group may very well be closed off. And that would fucking suck if that's the case. But I encourage you to think, am I scared of being the odd man out? So I'm projecting odd man out energy and therefore people aren't opening up to me, people aren't welcoming me in. That's what I was doing. And as soon as I flipped the switch, I started to feel much more welcome. Next question. There's like at least more than 10 questions in here that say, do trios work? White Lotus, someone wrote as an example, the White Lotus friendship, which I think was one of the most toxic friendships that I've ever seen on TV. I made a video about that, how I thought that the ending of White Lotus was so fucking like, I honestly couldn't even deal with it because I don't like the way it framed that friendship as normal. I don't like it the way it framed that friendship as inevitable, like an inevitable sign of being, no. This is what it's going to be like if you stay friends with your high school girls until middle age, it's bound to be like this. No, that's a choice. Do trios work? It's so funny because I think that there's a difference between being like, I'm in a trio versus I have 2 other friends and we all are also friends. I think trios can work. I think trios work when the individual people are confident, secure in themselves and in their individual friendships. A trio works when each individual person is aware of their jealousy, is aware of competitiveness, like is aware of all of those things and overall is secure in themselves. I think trios go wrong when one or more people are deeply insecure, are using these relationships to try to make themselves feel better about themselves. And all of us, none of us are immune to human emotions. All of us feel things like jealousy, inadequacy, etc. But a secure person doesn't A secure person does not make decisions based on those feelings. They don't act out based on those feelings. They know how to work through them. They have support in place to work through them. I don't think a trio can work if the people involved are not doing that. So trios can work, but it's less about the trio, more about the individuals in the trio. Someone asked, is being the emotional manager of a friend group actually what makes it fall apart? What an interesting question. I think that being the emotional manager for anybody other than yourself is not a sustainable behavior. Will it make your friend group fall apart? I'm not sure, but I think it will certainly degrade you over time. So it's not a job that I would want to take on. And if you find yourself being the emotional manager of your group, I'd be curious to ask yourself, like, where did that behavior come from? Who else have I been an emotional manager for in the past? That's a behavior I would try to curb because it's not sustainable. And it's really hard to be a good friend when you're trying to fix everything all the time. When I hear emotional manager, I think a little bit of like a fixer. You never want there to be problems, or when there is a problem, you want to fix it right away. You want to make sure everybody's good and happy and that there's no complaints. But that creates a certain type of energy for sure that can also be hard to be friends with. So I'm not sure it makes the group fall apart, but I don't know if it keeps the group together. And what is it costing you? What is it costing you with very little benefits to yourself or the group? We are only the emotional managers of ourselves, I think. And we can help people better manage their emotions by supporting them in all sorts of ways as friends. I'm talking about friends right now. But supporting someone's emotions is different than trying to manage them. And I think that's a really interesting thing for you to noodle on. Someone asked, what are your thoughts on smaller group activities, even if everyone is friends with the larger group? Like doing things in smaller groups? I think it's okay I think it's okay. I think it's okay and it's inevitable. Like I do believe that it's okay to have individual friendships within a larger group, but it's so contextual. It's not just like, okay, blanket all the time. And there's a really interesting balance between like keeping something a secret. Like one thing I was thinking about is how, let's say you're in a large group and like two of you are going to a concert together, or like you invite one friend to go wedding dress shopping. It's not that you're keeping a secret, but I do think it's a good thing to keep it private. And what's the difference between keeping something private and keeping it a secret is a really interesting question. I think it's thoughtful of other people's feelings to not like broadcast your small group endeavors somewhere where everybody could see. If it came up, you don't need to hide it. But I think, especially with like social media and stuff, it's just the thoughtful thing to do, I think, if you're in a large friend group, to keep some of your private business private. People might disagree with me on that, and there are probably circumstances where I wouldn't even agree with myself. But I think social media and like the posting of everything has made having one-on-one friendships really complicated and really hard. And yes, we all need to like toughen up a little bit and not feel so butthurt. Butthurt's my new favorite word after listening to the New Heights podcast with Taylor. We all need to not feel so butthurt when like, is butthurt an offensive word? Now I'm thinking about it. Like, is butthurt an offensive word? I really hope not. And if it is, I apologize and I won't use it anymore. We should all not feel so sensitive when we see people doing something without us, right? Take things a little bit less personally. But social media, I think, has made it worse. All right, I'm going to move on to the next question. In a healthy group of 3, is it ever okay for 2 to talk about the other, typically about a concern? Yeah, I think it is okay to I think it is okay for 2 people to talk about the other, mostly because I think it's impossible and unrealistic to say that you're never going to talk about the other person. I think, again, going back to that like healthy definition of what a 3-person friend group is, all 3 people are secure and confident. And really, if the core infrastructure of this friendship is love and trust, then I think it is okay to talk about, for 2 people to discuss somebody else. Now, is it okay to talk about something that they told you in private? Maybe not, right? Like, maybe not. Maybe we shouldn't be sharing secrets, right? But is it if you both are noticing something? Like, I think an example that comes to mind is like, if you want to discuss together the best way to support your friend who you both know is going through a hard time, you can kind of come up with a strategy together to support them. That I think is a perfectly kind. If the other friend learned about it, maybe they wouldn't like it immediately. Maybe they'd act defensively, as all humans would. But I think that that is a kind thing to do, right? Your intentions are kind. And intention doesn't always beat out impact. Impact really matters. But I think you have to really be honest about your intentions. If your intentions are to get something off your chest and to gossip, then maybe gossip with somebody else who's not the third person in the friend group. Gossip with somebody who's uninvolved. That's when I think gossip and like talking about somebody else is that's the best way to handle gossip, I think. To talk with someone who is very trusted in your life, who is not involved. But I don't think it's realistic to say that you're never going to talk about the other person in the group. But only you know if it's truly out of love. Only you know if you're really doing it in a kind way. And check yourself on that. Someone asked, when and how do you voice issues with a person when you're the only one with a problem versus letting it go? Interesting. I tend to let things go more if I know that the thing that bothered me is really a me problem. Like, I know my friend and I know the person well enough that like I misinterpreted it or they like pushed a soft spot, something that I'm working on. Like if I'm well aware of my triggers and I know they said something that rubbed me the wrong way because of my triggers, not because of them, I might let it go. However, if it's a repeated pattern of like of you not feeling seen by someone, seen by a friend, and I actually kind of hate that phrase. I feel like that phrase even is feeling a little overused. Maybe I would voice the issue if this is a person I care about and I know they care about me. I have evidence of that. And this thing's getting in the way of me being able to like be open with them and like reach out to them and like be involved with them. Then maybe I would address it. And it's okay that you're the only one with the problem. They might be really grateful to know for you to address it. They might be really glad that you told them because they don't want there to be this invisible wedge that's going deeper and deeper just because you haven't said anything. But I think that sometimes I also think you let things go when you know that the thing you have a problem with they're not going to be able to change it. Like, this happens a lot with old friends or people maybe that come into our life by circumstance rather than us like picking them. Sometimes there's things that you might not love about them or it might annoy you, but like you have to accept it about them. Sometimes we have to accept people for who they are and what their limits are. Like if you have a relationship with someone, and like you really want them to have this emotional depth and you can't stand that they say things that don't see you or that they're so unemotionally aware. I'm not sure that's something you can bring up with them because they might never have the ability to be what you want them to be. So you have to decide, can I let this go? Can I accept them for who they are? Or do I need to distance myself from this friendship and this relationship? I think there's some of that has to come into play too. Like, is the thing that you have a problem with, is it just so innate to who they are? Or is it more of a specific behavior that could be fixed? Or is it a misunderstanding that needs to be talked through? Is it something like that? I hope that's helpful. Someone asked how to deal with growing apart from friends because they know you don't like their significant other. How do they know that you don't like their significant other? Have you made it so obvious that they have no other choice but to distance themselves? What's wrong with their significant other? I have so many questions as a result of that. Because you not liking their significant other, and maybe your reasons are totally valid for that, by the way. It doesn't surprise me that you would grow more distant with someone. It doesn't surprise me that if the reasons are such that you are unable to keep that to yourself, that it would impact the friendship. And I think that did you weigh that cost? Like, did you consider that? I'm not saying that in like a sarcastic way. Like, genuinely, Did you think about that when you were making the decision of how you were going to act with this friend and their new significant other? Because you might need to take some time to simply process, like, okay, I made this choice. I made the choice to tell them how I feel, or I made the choice to not tell them, but to just show my friend through my actions that I don't like who they chose. And this is a consequence of that. How to deal with it? It's hard. I don't think there are any steps. I think it's one of those hard, it's a hard choice. It's a hard choice, and it's a hard situation that happened, and you made your choice. And I think you have to accept it. You can grieve it, and you can be sad, and you can name it, and you can say, this, I'm so sad and I'm so disappointed that my friend chose this person and that this person is getting in the way of our friendship. Or you can decide, you know what, this actually isn't worth it, and I want my friend back, and I need to change my behavior, and maybe I have to make amends for something. Maybe I have to repair. But ultimately, it does make sense to me that a friendship would grow apart if you don't like their significant other and you're unable to keep that to yourself. And even if, to think about this a little more, even if you did keep it to yourself, I imagine you'd still grow apart because it'd be something that you're holding in. It's a lose-lose. Disliking a friend's significant other is often a lose-lose because either you're telling them and losing the friendship, or you're holding on to the secret. And maybe you feel resentful of that. So it fucking sucks, man. I'm sorry that you're dealing with it. How do you navigate feeling unimportant in your friendships? It's funny. My initial instinct is to say that I don't feel unimportant in my friendships because I have chosen my friendships really intentionally, but I don't think that's entirely true. I think that maybe it's half true. Even in the friendships where I know that I'm loved and cared for, there aren't moments necessarily where I feel unimportant. Maybe there's moments where I'm not sure I'm a priority, but I'm not always a priority. I think maybe if I were feeling unimportant, I'd want to dig a little deeper and try to get more specific about what unimportant means. Does it mean that you're not being thought of? Does it mean that you're not being believed in? What does it mean to you? And then I'd think about, is that coming from somewhere else? At least for me, because I feel really secure actually in the people that I'm surrounding myself with, for the most part. If we're talking about friends, I should say. I don't feel secure in everybody. I've definitely chosen to surround myself with some people in non-friendship scenarios where I don't feel secure, and that is a whole other fucking ballgame. But if we're talking about friendship, if I feel secure and some insecure feeling, if I know I feel secure in this friendship and some insecure feeling is coming up, it is most often a thing I feel about myself that I am projecting. I feel it about myself, so I am searching everywhere for evidence that that thing is true. I do this all the time. We all do this all the time. If you are feeling unimportant, if you are feeling unworthy, you're going to look for proof of that. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I wish there was an easier answer, but I think like the way through that is really working on your own sense of worth, your own self-worth. How do we work on our self-worth? God, I wish I had a fucking easy answer to that. My self-worth issue is shame is one of the feelings that I really struggle with, feeling shame. And I was talking even with Brian the other day. He asked me, we were having a conversation, a challenging conversation, and he asked why something made me feel shame. And it felt like such a huge question. I couldn't even answer it. It just made me cry more. And I bring that up because I think like self-worth, like it's a huge fucking task. But if you're feeling unimportant in your friendships and the friendships are secure, I think it comes back to you and your sense of worth. And if you don't feel secure in these friendships and you feel unimportant because you're not compatible friends, well then, my love, I think it's time to find new friends. And I know that's not simple, but go back and listen to the first part of the letter, and it's time to distance yourself from the people who truly make you feel unimportant because their behavior speaks for itself. Next question. Why do I feel like the dynamic of our group virtually is completely different than in person? Because so many people are different virtually than they are in person. People are more confident virtually. It's easier to be funny. It's easier to be mean. It's easier to say there's no consequence. It's easier to say whatever you want. There's so much less of the awkward social moments and the sitting at the end of the table. None of that exists virtually. But it's an interesting dynamic. It's a really interesting dynamic. I don't know. I'd be curious for your guys' thoughts on that. Are you saying it in a bad way? Like, is it a better vibe virtually than in person, or is it a shittier vibe? Because I often base like how I actually feel about a friendship based on how we are in person versus how we are online through texting or whatever. With the exception of one of my best friends, Stephanie, who we've never met in person. So our relationship is entirely virtual, but we literally, we video chat and we write together pretty much every fucking day. So it almost is like we're in person. Interesting. Okay, next question. Next question is, what did the journey to accepting not being a friend group person look like for you? Man, long and circuitous. Damn, that word came into my head. And you know, when you like have a word pop into your head and then you say it, you're like, damn, that's the perfect word. And then as soon as I say the word, I fucking mispronounce it. I can't even say it clearly. Long and challenging. But I think, I was talking about this with my friend the other day, with Stephanie, actually. I have always struggles to fit in. I have never known where I fit in the group of girls. I've never felt like I fit in, and I still often don't feel like I fit in anywhere. I think, though, that when I stopped trying to fit into a group, I finally started to feel like I fit in with individual people. And that has been the greatest part of not feeling like I need to be a part of a group. And it's not, the confidence I have of not being in a friend group, like, doesn't apply to everything. As a person who creates stuff on the internet, you could consider me a content creator, right? I don't feel like I fit into any content creator niche, for example, or like girl group. Maybe I have one pinky in to one area and one pinky into another, but I ultimately don't feel like I fit in anywhere. And I feel myself all the time trying to be like, oh, maybe I should be a little more like that so that I could fit into this group. Should I be able to fit into this group of people on the internet? And I don't feel like I fit in anywhere. And that feels very lonely and scary sometimes. And sometimes I think I'm doing it wrong. And it's very similar to how I used to feel about friend groups. And I guess it's kind of the same fucking thing. But ultimately, removing the pressure from myself and realizing that I actually am just more of myself in small groups or one-on-one, it's just been like, I guess it's just been part of the journey of accepting myself and accepting myself for who I am and what my strengths are. And my strengths, like, I'm better. I feel better when I have individual relationships. And that doesn't mean like I am good in a group. You can invite me to a 10-person thing and I will be good. But because I don't feel the pressure to belong there, like I don't need to belong in any group. I belong with myself and I belong in these one-on-one things. I don't know. It's just felt more like, wow, I'm doing that work of accepting myself. But how to get here has looked dramatic at times, lonely, depressing at times, scary. I've made tons of bad choices. But ultimately it feels very rewarding because I do look around and I do feel like I have a good chunk of friends who really know me and who could describe me in the way I want to be described and who would say that I am a precious friend to them. Like that's what it's about. For me, I want to be a person for whom a select other group of other people can say, Alexandra or Hayes, depending on what they call me, like Hayes is a really fucking good friend. And I'm not that for everybody. And I couldn't be that for everybody in a friend group. And I feel better about myself. Like I feel more confident in myself knowing that I can do that for a group of people. And there's more people that I haven't met yet who I bet I'll be able to do that for because I'm not tied to any one group. I'm kind of open. I'm open to new friends and I'm open to bringing new people into my life in that way. Being in a friend group, I think that's really interesting. Being in a friend group never made me feel like a good friend. It always made me feel like I was doing something wrong and that I wasn't adequate. Having one-on-one friendships made me feel like the good friend that I am. It changed the way I viewed myself as a friend because it brought out the best in me. And that has been a very rewarding experience, though it's taken quite a long time. Someone asked, when and how often should people invite their romantic partners into friend groups? As a lesbian, I have always shared friend groups easily, but curious about straight couples. I mean, every friend group is going to be different. In my experience as a straight person and with friends who are straight, in the beginning, I think like when not everybody was in relationships, it was more of like I want you guys to meet Brian. Will you all come over to the apartment kind of thing? Or Brian's going to meet us for a drink after. Is it okay if Brian meets us would I ever say it's okay? Maybe Brian will meet us for a drink after, and everybody I think would be excited about that because he wasn't infringing on dinner. But it was more of like, I want you all to meet this person. Will you come do this with me? Or when is a good night for us to do that? Versus, like, I would have never just brought Brian to dinner when I was getting dinner with my girlfriends. Like, that would have never happened. It would be explicit. They would know in advance and they would have been able to like opt into that, I guess. Once more people were in relationships, not everyone, and even now still, like one of my best friends out here, Natalie, her husband, like we hang out as couples all the time, but she and I also do things just the two of us. And like I'll bring Francis over to play with their dog sometimes. And I don't always say if it's me and Brian coming. Sometimes he'll come, sometimes not. I don't know. I'm not being super clear there. But she and I will still hang out just as girlfriends without our husbands. And we also will hang out with all of us. Sometimes we'll hang out, like she's come over before when it's me and Brian and her husband's been away. I think there's no rules, but I don't think like there's no rules. But in my experience, it's never been that Brian is like joining the friend group. Brian is my husband. And sometimes as a whole, we will do things together, but it's never like he's a part of the friend group. Other people might have different experiences, and I don't think any one is right or wrong, but it's very dependent on what the group dynamic is, if that makes sense. Someone asked, what are your thoughts on the saying, real friends should never be jealous of you? Well, it's so complicated because I think jealousy is a normal human emotion, and I think every person is capable and will feel all of the emotion, maybe not all. I'm going to retract. Some people are not capable of feeling certain emotions. Some people can experience a wide range of emotions. And just because you feel jealousy does not mean that you are a bad friend or a bad person. However, I think that a healthy friendship consists of people who are emotionally mature adults or young people, whatever, who can cope with their feelings and not make decisions based off of them. So I could feel jealous perhaps that a friend of mine is experiencing something that I want, envious. Maybe I feel envious. But because I'm able to work through that, it lasts like half a second and then it's gone. So I think that in a healthy, emotionally mature friendship, feelings can come and go and they don't impact behavior. Though I will say, in my closest of friendships, I have felt such joy when they've experienced joy. Like I feel their wins as if they're my own. So jealousy and envy, like maybe there's oh my gosh, I want that. But it's not a negative version of that, right? There's such a difference between, oh my God, I want that, and wow, I want that. Like, I don't know how to be happy for them. And I'm not sure if it's that, I don't know if that's a testament to the fact that our friendships are real, quote, or if it's a testament to how good I've gotten or how hard I'm working, I've been working at my own internal mishigas with some of these topics, if that makes sense. Because like the reality is that we are all complicated human beings, and I believe that complicated human beings are able to be in happy, healthy relationships. It's just how willing are you to deal with hard emotions yourself and work on them, and yeah. All right. And for our last question today, Someone asked, I found out I'm pregnant and it's been hard to share with friends because we don't really talk that much. How do I stop being in my head about it and bring it up? Oh man. I mean, I think this feeling is so normal. Like the awareness of like, how long have we last talked? Is it too much time for me to share something important? I think the best way to get out of our head about sending a piece of news, sending any type of text when it's been a while, is just to fucking do it. It's going to be easier. It's going to be better than we make it out to be. So let me hold your hand and just send the text. Let me hold your hand right now and let's just send the text. Just send the text. If you don't want to send it to the group chat, if there is a group chat, or you don't want to send it maybe that's what it is. Like the thought of sending it to all of them might bring awareness to the fact that it's been a long time in a way that's a little more aggressive or like a little more obvious than if you were to just send a bunch of one-on-one text. So feel free, give yourself permission to send the one-on-one text if that's easier. That's probably what I would do. I think that's what I would do. And I would just say, hi, I've been thinking of you. I know it's been a long time. I wanted to tell you that I'm pregnant. I'm so excited. And you came to my mind as one of the people I wanted to tell. Like, I think that is you came to my mind as someone I wanted to tell, I think is a lovely thing to say. We all, at the end of the day, like, we all appreciate being thought of. When someone has thought of me, I do not think, oh, they haven't thought of me in 6 months. I'm just like, wow, that's really nice that they thought of me. And I think your friends will feel that way. And if you want to share with them, I think that's such a lovely sign of your friendship, that in this exciting moment in your life, you want to share. And I guess, do you want to share? Maybe I'm rereading your note now. Am I assuming that? You said it's been hard to share because we don't talk that much. How do I stop being in my head about it and bring it up? Yeah, so maybe it's not that you want to share, but you just like, you're aware that you should. Like you don't want these people to find out when you post your pregnant pic on Instagram or something. Either way, just send it, and people are not thinking about how much time it's been as much as you have, unless they're one of the many people who write into this podcast when we do the reciprocal friends episode about they haven't reached out in so long. I don't know. I think your friends are going to be excited for you that you're pregnant. They might not give you the exact reaction that your people who you are more in touch with give you, but I don't know. I get news from people sometimes who I haven't spoken with in a very long time, and I am over the moon excited for them. It does not matter how long it's been. But I understand and I validate that. I understand how uncomfortable it feels, but I think it will pass as soon as you send the note. So send the note. Send the note right now. Okay, I think that's it for the rapid fire questions. Thank you everybody for sending them in. If you want to submit next time, make sure you're following me on social media on Instagram at afhayes. And all right, that is it. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me. It was so great being with you. If you liked this episode, we have new episodes of Hello Hayes every Tuesday. Please leave it a review, 5-star review. Please only 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts or Spotify if you're a listener. Give it a like on YouTube if you watch there. I really appreciate the support. Send the episode or any episode that you listened to in the past to a friend who you think might like the show. And I will see you guys next week. Thanks so much for being here. Bye.